Alright guys, today's lesson is all about how to analyze visuals, specifically visuals that are geared towards sharing information. We're looking at this as part of your first component for your multi-genre project. Today in this presentation we will cover how to define visuals for sharing information, what they look like, what they are, determine why visuals are useful for sharing information, analyze past visuals for purpose and meaning, and examine visuals for effectiveness. So first and foremost, we are going to define what visuals are. Visuals are, but are not limited to, photographs, advertisements, paintings and drawings, photo essays, sculptures, cartoons, comic strips, infographic and or charts, with the purpose of communicating ideas to readers with limited words. So you may or may not have a visual that is just an image. You may have a visual that combines both images and words. That's very common in cartoons, comic strips, infographics, and charts. They use a combination of both. Whereas a photograph and a painting and a drawing or a photo essay or a sculpture is typically just the visual aspect. Depending on your needs and your message, you will choose the one that best fits your purpose and how much work you want the reader to do when they look at it. So, why do people create visuals to share information? That saying a picture is worth 1,000 words really answers this question. A complex idea can be conveyed with just a single still image, namely making it possible to absorb large amounts of data quickly. We live in a visual world. Every day we see thousands of pictures and images all across our phones, across our computers. We share information visually. Instagram is popular because you just look at a bunch of pictures. The caption is there, but depending on how many words are in the caption, you may or may not just skip on by. With that being said, as the way we have evolved and shared information with one another, when we are sharing vital information like data and facts, we've also changed the way we share those, and they have become more visual. They're quick, they're easy to see, easy to share. You don't have to print out a 5-page article or a 5-page newspaper. Um, the way that we look at them and understand them makes it more easily accessible to a wider audience. You can share a simple photograph, and that person doesn't need to know how to read or doesn't need to speak the same language in order to understand what that photograph is saying. So, how do I know what it wants me to understand? When you are looking at a visual and trying to understand what it wants you to know, ask yourself these different questions. So, what does it want you to feel? How does it make you feel? Angry, sad, excited, happy? You could feel more than one emotion. You're not limited to a specific emotion. And the way I see it may be different from the way you see it. As long as you can support it with evidence, your emotions are valid. Subject matter. So who and or what is in the photo? What is the image about? What about the colors? How is color used in the image? What effect do the colors chosen have on the viewer? For example, red. Red's the color of blood. It's since a long time in history been associated with sacrifice, danger, and courage. Furthermore, black typically is associated with death. Is there a reason the photo is in black and white versus color? You have to think about those things. Perspective. Are you looking from above or looking from below? Are there things that you can't see? Does it only show you part of the photo? Is there something highlighted? Is there a light shining on one part of it? Is something bigger or smaller? Is it bright? Is it dark? Those things can change what the person who created it is trying to get you to understand. Are there any symbols in the visual? What symbols do you see? What do you think they represent? Are the colors that were chosen symbolic? For example, a popular symbol that we know and see often is a cross. That cross is generally symbolic of Christianity. So if you see that on some type of visual being shared, you can usually assume that it is religious in some way. Gestures. What type of gestures is the character giving the person, the subject matter? And what is communicated by those gestures? There is a very common gesture in our society that is not viewed either appropriately or in a nice way. So if you see that, you can make assumptions about what they want you to know. So here's an example. This is a photograph that is of baseball players in 1918 during the Spanish flu. This was another pandemic that really wreaked havoc on the United States. So this is a photograph from them. And as you can see, we have the baseball players all and the umpire are all wearing masks, including the catcher and the umpire underneath their safety equipment. So I want you to take a few minutes to look at this photo, really analyze all the things you see, asking yourself those questions that we just went over, and make some predictions about what you think the photographer wants you to understand from this photo. Okay, so here's what you can kind of understand. So in 1918, baseball was the most popular American sport being played. With that being said, we all know that even still today, we care a lot about our sports. They make up a large part of what it means to be American. With that being said, this photograph shows that they were expected to keep playing during a major health crisis and pandemic that was the Spanish flu. They wore masks to protect them, like many are doing so today. And it shows you the dedication of the players and the fans. But it also shows the difference in players' organizations that existed today to protect players. So, based on all that information, overall, we can say that we see how players were treated and teams responded to the Spanish flu. This contradicts athletes and sports today that have stopped playing due to the coronavirus. So we may make assumptions that the photographer wanted you to see how insane it was that players were expected to play under these circumstances. Or maybe the photographer wanted to celebrate that sports were still being played to rally and keep, spirits high for Americans during this campaign. Okay, here's another one. Here's an advertisement. This is from a newspaper in 1918, also during the Spanish flu. And I want you to take a few minutes to just look at this advertisement and see what you notice about it and what it's telling you. Okay, so what you need to know. Newspapers were a popular way to advertise business during 1918. It was today's social media. Think about all the newspaper articles that get shared online while you're on Facebook or on Twitter. That's how we get our news and ads for the most part. So they started with information and statistics about the importance of washing your hands to prevent the flu. So everybody was looking for a way to keep them and their family safe. So naturally, they come out and say, wash your hands before you do anything, and after you do anything, always wash your hands. That is something that's been continually shared today. But they take it a step further and use that information to support and encourage you to buy their soap that you see at the very bottom of that ad. So, based on those observations, we see how businesses use a crisis to sell their products. This soap used the importance of hand washing during a pandemic to get you to buy their soap to stay healthy. In other words, they saw a need for soap and advertised that need as in their soap was better and going to keep you healthier and safer than anyone else's soap. This resembles some of the cell phone companies' ads that have been aired promising you to keep you connected with your loved ones during the current pandemic. So while we're isolated, they play on that need to connect to others with their cell phone company. Here's the last one that we're going to look at. This is a political cartoon that was created and informed readers about the Ebola outbreak that was in 2014. So this is more recent. I want you to just take a few seconds to really look at this and see what information you need to know and understand before you can really get what this cartoon wants you to take away. Okay, so first of all, in order for you to understand this political cartoon, you need to know who Chicken Little was. Chicken Little started as a folktale and was actually turned into a movie. It's about a chicken who always thinks the sky is falling and the world is ending and runs around telling everybody the sky is falling, um, overreacting when in reality the sky wasn't falling, it was just an acorn that fell on his head. Okay? So you need to know that Chicken Little is known for overreacting. It also expects you to know that the CDC recommends each year that you get a flu shot to prevent the flu. However, in recent years, there's been a decrease in the number of people getting vaccines of any kind. Um, so, based on those two facts, we observe that Chicken Little is scared about Ebola, but the doctor doesn't seem worried. Therefore, overall, we can assume that Chicken Little is overreacting about the dangers of Ebola, but underreacting about the flu by not getting a vaccine that the doctor thinks is more serious and important. So, if you're not going to listen to a doctor recommending getting your flu shot, then why are you worried about Ebola, which wasn't that serious to Americans? Okay, time for an X's lesson. Tomorrow you will have time to research and choose your own visual to analyze just as I showed you today for the visual component of your multi-genre project. Have a great day, guys.